Admiral Kethavar's four eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display floating before his command chair. The primitive world designated as Sol 3 rotated slowly, its blue and green surface marked with the crude settlements of a species that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel. The Zeltharian Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, each capitulation swift and absolute. This would be no different. "Status report," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of 3 decades commanding the Imperial fleet. "Sir," his tactical officer, Sub-Commander Voxtel replied with practiced efficiency. "Preliminary scans show a technologically inferior species, carbon-based bipeds calling themselves humans. Their weapons are primitive projectile-based systems with some basic energy weapons. No shields detected on their vessels." Kethavar's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his kind. "And their fleet?" "Scattered across their system. A few hundred vessels at most, none larger than our escort frigates. We could annihilate them without sustaining casualties." The Admiral leaned back in his command chair, satisfied. The Zeltharian Empire's doctrine was simple. Offer surrender, demonstrate overwhelming force if refused, then strip the world of its resources and incorporate the survivors as laborers. It had worked flawlessly for centuries. "Open a channel to their largest population center," he ordered. The main screen shimmered, revealing the interior of what appeared to be a crude command center. A human female, her hair streaked with silver, stood before a gathering of her kind. Her uniform bore insignia that suggested command authority. "I am Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," she said, her voice calm despite the circumstances. "I assume you're here to deliver terms." Kethavar was momentarily surprised by her directness. Most species cowered or pleaded when first confronted by Imperial might. "I am Admiral Kethavar of the Zeltharian Imperial Fleet. Your world has been selected for incorporation into the Empire. Surrender unconditionally and your people will be treated according to Imperial labor protocols. Resist and face annihilation." Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. "I see. And how many worlds has your empire conquered using this approach?" 1,043, Kethavar replied, pride evident in his tone. "None have successfully resisted Imperial authority." "Interesting." Chen turned to consult with someone off-screen, then looked back. "Admiral Kethavar, I'm going to give you something no other species apparently has, a warning. Take your fleet and leave this system. You have 1 hour." The bridge fell silent. Sub-Commander Voxtel's breathing apparatus made a sound that indicated shock. Never in Imperial history had a primitive species issued demands to the Empire. Kethavar's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Zeltharian equivalent of laughter. "Human, you command a few hundred primitive vessels against the might of 2,000 Imperial warships. Your largest vessel masses less than our supply ships. On what possible basis do you issue threats?" Admiral Chen's eyes hardened. "Because, Admiral, you've made the same mistake as every other predator species we've encountered in our history. You've confused our restraint for weakness." "Restraint?" Kethavar scoffed. "Your technology is centuries behind ours. Our military technology, perhaps. But, Admiral, let me ask you something. When your empire surveys a world for conquest, what do you look for?" Despite himself, Kethavar found he was curious about this human's reasoning. "Strategic resources, population centers, defensive capabilities. And what did your sensors tell you about Earth?" Sub-Commander Voxtel consulted his display. Standard Class M world. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. Various mineral resources, approximately 8 billion inhabitants. "Stop there," Chen interrupted. 8 billion on a single world. "Admiral, what's the largest population your empire has ever encountered on one planet?" Kethavar frowned. The answer was around 2 billion on Zirion Prime. But numbers meant nothing without technology too. "Now," Chen continued, "ask yourself this. What kind of species reaches 8 billion individuals and maintains a stable civilization? What does that require in terms of resource management, organization, and technological capability?" "Your technology is primitive," Kethavar insisted, but there was less certainty in his voice. "Our weapons technology is primitive, Admiral, because for the past 3 centuries we've focused our efforts elsewhere." Chen gestured, and the display behind her lit up with an image that made every Zeltharian on the bridge recoil. It was a star, but not as they knew stars. This one was surrounded by an intricate lattice of structures vast beyond comprehension. Energy flowed along pathways that dwarfed planets, harvesting the star's entire output. "We call it a Dyson swarm," Chen explained calmly. We built our first prototype around Proxima Centauri 40 years ago. We're currently constructing our second around Wolf 359. She paused. Admiral, when we achieved faster-than-light travel, we didn't use it to build warships and conquer neighbors. We used it to build infrastructure, to turn entire solar systems into industrial complexes. Kethavar's four eyes widened as the implications crashed over him like a tsunami. A species that could harness the total energy output of a star didn't need advanced weapon systems. They simply needed to point that energy in the right direction. You're bluffing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. If you possessed such power, you would have used it by now. Admiral Chen smiled, and for the first time Kethavar saw something predatory in the expression. Admiral, you misunderstand. We don't use that power because we don't want to fight. We prefer to build, to explore, to create, but you've mistaken our preference for peace as an inability to wage war. She turned to someone off-screen. Commander Rodriguez, please show Admiral Kethavar what humanity builds when we're not building habitats. The display shifted. Where moments before there had been empty space at the edge of the solar system, now there were ships. Not hundreds, but hundreds of thousands. They emerged from stealth fields like predators from shadow, each one dwarfing Kethavar's flagship. 47 minutes remaining, Chen said quietly. Admiral, your empire has conquered 1,043 worlds. But those were worlds that fought with armies and fleets. We don't fight with armies, Admiral. When humanity goes to war, we fight with the industrial output of entire civilizations. Kethavar stared at the display, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Ships constructed from the raw materials of asteroid belts, weapons powered by the energy of stars, a species that had turned warfare into an engineering problem. This is impossible, he whispered. No, Admiral. This is what happens when a species spends its time solving problems instead of creating them. 38 minutes remaining. Kethavar looked at his sub-commander, saw his own fear reflected in Voxtal's eyes. In the span of minutes, everything he understood about warfare, about conquest, about the natural order of the universe, had been shattered. All ships, he commanded, his voice barely steady, begin immediate withdrawal from this system. As the Imperial fleet turned to flee, Admiral Chen's final words followed them. Safe travels, Admiral, and when you return to your empire, remember this. Humanity offered you a warning because we still hope to avoid becoming what we're capable of being. The Zeltharian Empire never returned to Sol. In the years that followed, they would speak in hushed tones of the day. They learned that sometimes the greatest predators are those who choose not to hunt. And across the galaxy, other species would learn what the Empire learned that day. When humanity finally says flee, the wise listen.